making fun of you if you had, if your tennis shoes were a little raggedy or if you had holes in your jeans. Unlike in the city, you know, people kind of grade you from how good your bike was, or, you know, if your baseball glove was, you know, up to par and things of that nature. But the store, to me, is a part of our heritage that runs much deeper than anything that I've ever been involved in. It just, and I don't know how I could be so blessed and lucky to be able to do it, but just within the store, the architecture, the looking at the lumber. I mean, some of the joists are 24, 26, 28 feet long, one contiguous 2x6. And they're still in great shape. Had some repair before I got it, and we pretty well took that repair off and replaced it with the repair that fits the store more or less. But just being inside the store, looking at the architecture, knowing that the store was built with no electricity and no hydraulics, and you know, the team unity it took to build something like that. I'm just overwhelmed. I can't imagine I can't imagine building it today. The focal point for me as a child coming here was, number one, to earn money, but the spring house was just, I mean, I thought about it all the way up here, you know.
Tell me about the spring house.
The spring house, I don't know if you've seen it or been to it.
I haven't yet.
It's a sulfur spring that literally bowled up out of the rocks there, and we as children, there was 4 floors and a flat the top floor, and then there was a roof. And as children, tourists would give us nickels and dimes and to dive off of that roof into the spring.
Wow.
And I can remember diving off of that roof and trying to go down in the spring, and the water was boiling up out of there, and you couldn't do it. Then as time goes on, you know, the pressure got less and less and less. But then after some few years, and I don't remember times and dates as well as I should, they built, you know, the spring was so crowded, till they built a pool outside. It was shaped like a kidney, and when you walk down there, the pool is still there. They just filled it up. But they charged the spring with the sulfur water, so it was, you know, when we were kids, you know, it was, you know, now, you know, we'd drink it and wear it and whatever else we could do to get next to it for health reasons, of course. But I always remember that, you know, everyone would work, everyone, men, women, and children would work in the fields, and you know, I don't remember anybody griping or complaining about it. It was more or less a privilege to be able to get old enough to earn like $4 a day, and you know, the younger children would hand tobacco underneath the shelters, and then when you got a little older and stronger, you were able to crop, which means go out into the field. And there's nothing that looks longer in the morning than a tobacco row. If you've never, especially when you have a pair of mules pulling a sled that goes through there, and the older, stronger kids could run through and pick the tobacco and go to the sled much quicker. And then, of course, being younger, I always tried to keep up with them. But I was glad when the day was over. But it was a good day. You got up early and you worked until noontime, what we call in this area dinner time. And then the ladies would cook a big meal for everyone, all the workers, and then we would go to the caretaker's home and eat dinner, and then we'd go back to work a couple of hours, and then it would be over. We all have to drink this water, and we all got to breathe the air. The flip side of that is, I mean, I don't want to say bad things about industry, because obviously we all need jobs. But I would just like to see industry and the environment work a little closer together, and look at the more long-term ramifications that using so much of our water has. You know, people think about all the different things that we're going to need in the future, and water's, it's, you know, we're in a very, very vulnerable situation here with our water.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. And it seems to be a huge issue.
when I was a kid, that river was so swift. If you wanted to dive in it and swim across, you better run way upstream to get to where you were going.
Right.
And don't try to fight it. You better go with it, because it would take you places that would scare the heck out of you. And as I stated earlier, the spring was just bowling up out of there. I mean, you could not swim into it. It was just so, I'm just so blessed to be able to have seen it and been there. Now when you look, I weep when I go there. I mean, it's just a hole with nothing coming out. Nothing coming out, and cigarette butts in it, and paper, and I mean, every time I go there, I sneak down in there and pick up all that stuff and get it out of there. But those guillotine style things in the back of it were designed not to let the water out. And when you'll see that there was so much water coming out. If the river was too high, they would try to hold the water back so it wouldn't contribute so much to the river to add to the flooding.
Wow.
But then downriver from that was a place called Blue Sink. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Heard about Blue Sink.
It again was just, couldn't swim in the hole, I mean, into the spring, because it was just bowling out of there. And those are things that we got to enjoy, and I hate it for our children and folks now that come here from other areas. I mean, I don't know what we would have to do to reverse it. Don't think we can, but to preserve what we have left would be and is my goal. I always tell folks, when I get through with the store, I'm going to start hammering on the spring house. So, and the spring literally would revive this area. I'm told that there's a big well, a sulfur well, that's capped off adjacent to my store. And I've spoke to the mayor and other folks about me being able to get that well and maybe build another pool close to the store, or, of course, ideally what I'd like to do is get the spring house revitalized and to clean out that kidney-shaped pool. And I understand it'll take a lot of money and work, but I just think if people could see how it was, it would be such an asset to the community. Because if we could take somehow, and I'm not an engineer, and I'm certainly not a hydrologist. I'm just a person with love for a little town. So, but if we somehow could take that sulfur well and pipe that into the kidney-shaped pool, then, children around here, a certain segment of children didn't get to go in that spring. They didn't get to go in the pool, for reasons that I'm not responsible for, and I just hate to go there, because I lived and I seen a lot of I've seen kids go through things that they shouldn't have to go through. Kid can't drink out of. Right. Some of my friends weren't able to drink out of the same water fountain as I was, but we got around that. We'd keep the store guy busy.
It seems like it. That's what's interesting here.
It is, and I learned that here. I learned that all people are created equal.
What did you do when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, we had to work.
Where did you work?
We had to work. I worked in tobacco. I worked pulling deer tongue.
We just learned about deer tongue.
Yes, and I think I got some pictures on my camera, but Teddy Bear said he had brought this
He
stuff
did,
down
yeah.
here. Well, we should have had to go out and pull this stuff out the woods. We had to work. There was no such thing as a whole lot of play in my family.
Right.
There was a time that this man's wife had died. He was a white guy. His wife had died, and my mom was taking care of his kids. So she used to bring the kids to the house. So they grew up like our brothers.
Right.
And there was this one time where Daddy got on one of the boys. He whipped his butt. So people was telling Dad in the city, that's what you talking about way back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And people were saying, Daddy, you cannot beat those children. Daddy said, why? He said, because the white kids, Daddy said, well, if this white man did not want me to be his children, he'd have kept them home. So, you know, they was raised up with us.
Like,
you know,
as equals.
Right. We was but we didn't know the difference. And
Right.
I thank God that our parents sheltered us from that. But I was in Carver School. I graduated from kindergarten at that school.
Okay. Can you tell me anything about going to school there and what that was like and what that school meant to the community?
That school meant a lot to the community. I mean, kids, you know, when you look at the age group in this city, my age and up, you see a difference. You see a difference in education. It was more than teaching us writing, reading, and arithmetic. It taught us values in life. The teachers there, like Miss Sally Mae Reddix, Miss Mary Graham, Miss Sadie Turner, you know, Dorothy Bryant, those teachers taught us morals and standards. They taught the young ladies to be ladies. They taught us to respect ourselves. We would never starve because our parents taught us how to cook. They taught us how to survive. They taught us, now some of the things you might not want to eat, you might think is terrible, and no, because we know now if the economy gets bad enough, we know we can kill a rabbit and eat it. We know we can eat turtle. We know we can eat possum. We know we can eat coon. We know we can eat robins and quails because our parents taught us all of this stuff. You know.
For instance, right across the street over here, you'll see a concrete slab over there by the Munchie store. That used to be a hardware store. Years ago, it was called Hunt's. I wasn't sure what it was called in the early 70s. But I remember as a kid, early teens or before teenage years, my dad used to come down there and we'd get fertilizer. They'd come in on big old semis. It was bagged. It was coming on big semis. And as being farmers, we used to come bring our big trucks down there and have to unload them from semi to truck. And little as we were, instead of having to pick it up, we had to take it and drag it across the truck and stack it because we were so small. But that place there, it became, over the years, it was vacant, and it became what they call Club 41, which is some people call a juke joint. I wasn't sure about it. I don't hang around juke joints. But in later years, I understand it caught fire and burnt down for unknown reasons, but the people don't want to talk about it. It's transformed quite a bit. Because I didn't sit, when I came in 78, like I said, I was under Secretary of State. We used to have, we still have the Florida Folk Festival. We still have the Genie audition, which just finished up this past weekend.
What is that again?
Genie auditions.
The Genie auditions?
I Dream of Genie.
Oh.
Stephen Foster had a song of I Dream of Genie. And the song, pretty much they sang opera songs. Ain't what I call it Screaming Jimmy, but that's just my thoughts. But they sing high tone of voices. And when we first started doing it here, it was kind of cool because state DNR was never a part of it then. And when we had the Genie balls, we all had to wear suits and ties, which is kind of unique. We had this pond over there, which still got the pond, and they had wild ducks in it. Well, when these girls got to singing, ducks sat there and like, I don't know if they had ears or not, but they started hollering, just started all kind of racket. They'd come up, some of the girls come off the stage just crying their eyes out, Mom, the ducks messed me up. Well, I know it's been getting a lot hotter in the summer months. It's not, and we used to have wet winters, now we got dry winters. The spring house, so to speak, the flow of the water, it's pretty much dried up. The reason we made a change because the taxes went up. We're always in drought conditions. If you don't have a pivot, which is an irrigation pivot, if you don't have somebody to put water on something, you go out and prepare your farm, your land. You got to fertilize it. You got to cultivate it 2 or 3 times. You got to go in and get the weeds out of it, lay it by. But then it was drought conditions. So over all these years, fertilizer went up. No rain. So if you didn't have no rain, no pivots, so water out of the ground, you couldn't make a living with it. So they had to come out with something different. When my daddy retired, he was in the Korean War. He was a veteran of the Korean War, and did farming for years. Then he decided to, as he was farming, he was also a custom combiner. That's where people take a big combine or something, and you go from field to field. People had these little fields of corn, they didn't have a combine. They just had tractor and they could do it. So you got people still do it today. We did that for a lot of years, from 73 to up to 95. But like the economy, your tags got so expensive. You had regular E-license, you had to go to a CDL, which that costs a lot of money. Your tags, you had to buy them 12 months a year, which we bought all these tags for these big trucks, which is expensive, and you didn't use them 3 times a month, three months out of the year. So that hurt you. Insurance, drought, everything far under the sun went up, and you couldn't make nothing off of it. By the time you figured in all your work, all your equipment use, all your fuel, they had to get out of it.
Makes sense. Right.
So we get these big old inner tubes, take a door. Now this is kind of funny, you have to picture this. It's pretty neat. Take a big old door, put it on the inner tubes. You take one of these big old cast iron tubs, you see with the feet on it, stuck it on top of the board. The water current's going pretty good. But started off doing great. But we wasn't thinking ahead. When you got it going down the creek bed, you got these trees that fall over in the water. Well, you can't get under in the water, it's flowing pretty fast, so all you do, the tub goes like this, and you're kind of out in the trees. If you can't duck, you're up in the trees, it was fun. I mean, until somebody got hurt. We had to go back later and fish out the tub.
I was going to say, it must have sank.
Oh, it sank like a rock.
Don't judge me by the color of my skin, but the content of my character. That's been mine. It's how I act and how I am. The color don't amount to anything. But what I love about White Springs, I've been to a lot of towns, halfway around the world. White Springs is a unique place. Ain't many people, but everybody know each other. And